Commander Thea Novak hadn't expected to find anything interesting during her routine patrol of the Andromeda sector. The region was notorious for its emptiness, serving mainly as a buffer zone between human space and the mysterious Centauri Alliance. Yet here she was, staring at her ship's sensors as they picked up an anomalous signal. Sentinel, analyze signal pattern. She commanded her ship's AI while adjusting her navigation controls. The sleek vessel responded smoothly to her touch, a testament to years of experience piloting military craft. Signal appears to be an encrypted distress beacon, Commander. Origin: unknown. Technology signature doesn't match any known species in our database. Thea frowned, her dark eyes reflecting the holographic displays surrounding her cockpit. After 15 years in the Stellar Guard, she'd learned that unknown usually meant trouble, but it could also mean first contact, and that thought sent a familiar thrill of excitement through her. Plot an intercept course, she ordered, already running through first contact protocols in her mind. Her ship, the ESS Pathfinder, was well equipped for rescue operations, though she usually conducted them closer to established trade routes. As they approached the signal source, a small planetoid came into view. Its surface was covered in crystalline formations that sparkled like diamonds in the light of the nearby dwarf star. The beacon's signal grew stronger, leading them to what appeared to be a crash site. Life signs detected, Sentinel announced. One individual. Biological readings are unusual. Thea suited up in her combat armor, its midnight blue surface decorated with the silver insignia of the Stellar Guard. While she hoped this would be a simple rescue, experience had taught her to prepare for the worst. The armor's enhanced strength and shield capabilities had saved her life more times than she cared to count. The crash site revealed a vessel unlike anything she'd seen before. Its organic curves and iridescent surface suggested advanced technology, though the extensive damage made it hard to determine its original form. Near the wreckage, a figure sat huddled against a crystal formation. As Thea approached, the figure looked up, and she found herself staring into eyes that seemed to contain entire galaxies. The alien was humanoid, but clearly not human. Its skin had a subtle phosphorescent quality, and what looked like delicate filaments of light pulsed beneath the surface. "I am Commander Thea Novak of the Earth Stellar Guard," she announced, her translator broadcasting in multiple frequencies. "I'm here to help." The alien rose gracefully despite obvious injuries. "I am Lysandra," it responded in perfect standard English, surprising Thea, "and you are either my salvation or my executioner." Before Thea could respond, her suit's sensors detected multiple ships entering the system. Large ships. Warships. "You need to leave," Lysandra said urgently. "They're coming for me, and you don't want to be here when they arrive." "I don't leave people behind," Thea replied firmly. "Not even mysterious aliens who crash land in restricted space. Can you walk?" A small smile touched Lysandra's luminescent features. "You humans and your stubborn nobility. Yes, I can walk. But you should know, helping me might start a war." "Wouldn't be the first time," Thea muttered, supporting Lysandra as they hurried toward the Pathfinder. "Sentinel, prepare for emergency departure and power up the weapon systems." As they reached the ship, the first of the pursuing vessels emerged from hyperspace, massive constructs of dark metal and pulsing energy. Their design matched no known species, but their intentions were clear as they began charging weapons. "Last chance to leave me behind," Lysandra offered as Thea helped her into the co-pilot's seat. "Not happening," Thea replied, sliding into the pilot's chair and engaging the engines. "Besides, I have questions, like how you speak perfect English, and why those ships want you badly enough to risk a diplomatic incident with Earth. The answers might surprise you," Lysandra said, watching as Thea's hands flew over the controls, preparing for evasive action. "I like surprises." Thea grinned, then threw the Pathfinder into a spiral as energy beams lanced through the space they just occupied. They keep life interesting. The pursuing ships opened fire in earnest now, their weapons creating a deadly lattice of energy beams around the Pathfinder. But Thea hadn't earned her command through caution. She pushed her ship to its limits, using the crystalline formations as cover while plotting their escape vector. "Your piloting skills are impressive," Lysandra observed, seemingly unfazed by their desperate situation. "But they have us surrounded." "They think they do," Thea corrected, eyeing her tactical display. "Sentinel, deploy countermeasures. And Lysandra, you might want to hold onto something." What followed was a display of piloting that would have made her flight instructors proud, or possibly horrified. Thea used the planetoid's gravity to slingshot them through a gap in the enemy formation, their pursuers' size and superior firepower becoming a disadvantage in the tight maneuvering space. "We're not out of this yet," Thea warned as proximity alarms blared. "Those ships are faster in open space. We need somewhere to hide until I can contact command." Lysandra leaned forward, her otherworldly eyes studying the star charts. "There's an ion storm 2 light-years from here. Their ships are too large to safely navigate it, but yours might make it through." "Might?" Thea raised an eyebrow. "Does the possibility of destruction make you hesitate?" There was something like amusement in Lysandra's melodic voice. "No," Thea replied, already plotting the course. "It makes me curious about what's so special about you that they're willing to risk destruction to get you back." "If we survive the storm," Lysandra said softly, "I'll tell you everything, including why meeting you might have just changed the course of galactic history." The Pathfinder shot toward the gathering storm, lightning-like energy discharges illuminating their path. Behind them, the massive warships followed, their weapons still firing, but with decreasing accuracy as the storm's interference grew stronger. Thea felt the familiar rush of adrenaline as they approached the storm's edge, but mixed with it was something new, a sense that she stood on the brink of something momentous. Whatever secrets Lysandra carried, whatever consequences helping her might bring, Thea knew she'd made the right choice. As they plunged into the storm's swirling chaos, Lysandra spoke again, her voice barely audible above the ship's straining engines. "You humans truly are remarkable creatures. Perhaps there's hope for us all." The ion storm raged around the Pathfinder, sheets of energy washing over the ship's shields in cascading waves of light. In the cockpit, Thea maintained a white-knuckled grip on the controls, fighting to keep them stable as the storm buffeted them from all directions. "Your shields are failing," Lysandra observed, her otherworldly eyes fixed on the ship's diagnostic displays. "The ion interference is stronger than expected." "I noticed," Thea replied through gritted teeth. "Sentinel, redirect power from non-essential systems to the shields." "That won't be enough," Lysandra said, rising from her seat with fluid grace despite the ship's violent motion. "Allow me to help." Before Thea could protest, Lysandra placed her hands on the ship's control panel. The phosphorescent patterns beneath her skin began to pulse more rapidly, and suddenly the shield's strength readings jumped to unprecedented levels. "What did you just do?" Thea asked, amazed as she watched the shields easily deflecting energy that had been overwhelming them moments before. "I synchronized the shield frequency with the storm's resonance patterns," Lysandra explained, though Thea noticed she seemed slightly drained by the effort. "My people have a natural affinity for energy manipulation." "Your people," Thea echoed. "I think it's time for those answers you promised." Lysandra sank back into her seat, the luminescence of her skin dimming slightly. "Yes, I suppose it is. Though you may wish you hadn't asked." She paused, gathering her thoughts. "I am what your scientists would call a quantum organic being. My species exists partially in your dimension, and partially in others." "That explains the energy manipulation," Thea noted, adjusting their course through a particularly dense section of the storm. "But not why those ships were trying to capture you." Was a researcher," Lysandra continued. "My work involved studying the boundaries between dimensions, seeking ways to stabilize the increasing quantum fluctuations threatening our realm. But I discovered something else instead, something that made me a threat to those in power." The ship's sensors indicated they were approaching the storm's edge. The pursuing warships were nowhere to be detected, though the storm's interference made long-range scanning impossible. "What did you find?" Thea prompted, genuinely curious now. "Evidence that my people's entire civilization is based on a lie." Lysandra's voice held both bitterness and determination. "We believe ourselves to be superior beings, naturally evolved to our current state. But I found proof that we were engineered, created by an ancient race as living weapons in a war long forgotten." Thea processed this revelation as they emerged from the storm into relatively calm space, and your leaders wanted to suppress this information. "Our entire society is structured around the belief in our natural supremacy," Lysandra explained. "The truth would shatter that foundation. But more importantly, it would reveal that we're not as stable as we pretend to be. The quantum fluctuations aren't a natural phenomenon. They're a sign that our engineered nature is breaking down." "So you ran," Thea concluded, understanding dawning. "Not just to expose the truth, but to find help." "Yes," Lysandra admitted softly. "My people are too proud to seek aid, too convinced of their superiority to admit they're dying. But I studied your species, Commander. Humans have a remarkable ability to solve problems others consider impossible." A proximity alert interrupted their conversation. A ship had just dropped out of hyperspace nearby, but not one of the massive warships that had pursued them. This was a smaller vessel, its design familiar to Thea. "Stellar Guard Long-Range Patrol," she identified, then frowned. "But they shouldn't be in this sector." The communication system crackled to life. "ESS Pathfinder. This is Captain Riza of the ESS Vigilant. Stand down and prepare for boarding. We have orders to take the alien entity into custody." Thea's hand hovered over the response button as she glanced at Lysandra. "They couldn't have known about you already unless your own government has been in contact with my people," Lysandra finished. "The lies run deeper than I thought." "Commander," Sentinel's artificial voice interjected, "I detect weapons charging on the Vigilant." Thea made her decision. "Sentinel, send an encrypted data burst to command. Full sensor logs and recordings of everything Lysandra has told us. Then plot us a course out of here, somewhere they won't expect us to go." "You'll be branded a traitor," Lysandra warned, though Thea could hear the hope in her voice. "Maybe," Thea acknowledged, already programming evasive maneuvers. "Or maybe I'll be preventing my government from making a terrible mistake. Either way, I need to know the truth." The Vigilant opened fire, but Thea was already moving, using maneuvers that had earned her top marks at the Academy. The Pathfinder was smaller and more agile, and she knew how to use that to their advantage. "There's a smuggler's outpost in the Deneb sector," she said as they accelerated away from their pursuer. "We can get supplies there. Maybe some answers about how deep this conspiracy goes." "Why are you doing this?" Lysandra asked, watching as Thea skillfully piloted them toward the hyperspace jump point. "Why risk everything for someone you just met?" Thea smiled grimly. "Because 15 years ago, I swore an oath to protect and serve, not just humanity, but the principles we claim to stand for. If what you're saying is true, then someone in my government is violating those principles. I need to know who and why." As they prepared to jump to hyperspace, Thea could see the Vigilant falling behind, unable to match their speed. But she knew this was just the beginning. They would be hunted now by both Lysandra's people and her own. "We're in this together now," she said, meeting Lysandra's galactic eyes. "Whatever the truth is, whatever we find, we face it together." Lysandra nodded, the patterns of light beneath her skin pulsing with what Thea was beginning to recognize as emotion. "Together," she agreed. "And Commander, thank you for believing in me." The stars streaked into lines around them as they jumped to hyperspace, leaving behind the life Thea had known and heading toward an uncertain future. But as she watched Lysandra begin to explain more about her people's technology, Thea felt a certainty that she'd made the right choice. The truth was out there, hidden beneath layers of lies and conspiracy, and together they would find it. The smugglers' outpost of Nova Haven lived up to its reputation. Carved into the heart of a massive asteroid, its winding corridors teemed with beings from across the galaxy, perfect for hiding or gathering information. Thea adjusted her civilian clothes, missing the familiar weight of her Stellar Guard uniform. Beside her, Lysandra had altered her appearance, dimming her natural luminescence to appear more human-like. The effect was remarkable, though her eyes still held that mesmerizing galactic depth. "Your contact is late," Lysandra observed, scanning the crowded bar with subtle unease. 3 days at the outpost had taught her to be cautious. "Marcus operates on his own schedule," Thea replied, nursing her synthetic ale. "But he's never let me down." As if summoned by her words, a weathered man with cybernetic augmentations slid into the seat across from them. "Talking about me behind my back, Nova?" he asked, using her cover name. "Only good things." Thea smiled, though her eyes remained alert. "What did you find?" Marcus's cybernetic eye whirred as it focused on them. "Enough to get us both killed. Your hunch was right. There's been unofficial contact between EarthGov and the Ascendancy for years." "The Ascendancy?" Thea glanced at Lysandra, who had gone very still. "It's what my people call themselves," she explained softly, "though we hardly live up to the name." Marcus continued, his voice barely audible above the bar's noise. "They've been trading technology, specifically quantum manipulation tech. But here's the interesting part. The deal's off books, handled by something called Project Oracle." "I've never heard of it." Thea frowned. "You wouldn't have. It's buried under so many layers of classification, even my best slicers barely found traces." He slid a data chip across the table. "But whatever they're building, it's big. Power consumption readings from suspected facilities are off the charts." Lysandra's hands trembled slightly as she spoke. "They're trying to stabilize themselves using human resources. But it won't work, not without understanding the original engineering." "Which is in the data you stole," Thea concluded, "along with proof that the attempts will likely trigger a quantum cascade, one that could tear holes in space-time across multiple systems." Marcus whistled low. "Well, that's definitely worth killing over." His cybernetic eye suddenly flashed red. "Speaking of which, we've got company. 3 o'clock. Government types trying hard not to look like government types." Thea casually scanned the direction he indicated. 2 men and a woman, too clean-cut for this establishment, were making their way through the crowd. "Back exit," Marcus said, standing smoothly. "I'll distract them. Good luck, Nova. Try not to start any interstellar wars without me." They slipped away as Marcus orchestrated a convincing drunk brawl, complete with thrown drinks and overturned tables. But as they hurried through Nova Haven's back corridors, Thea realized something was wrong. "They're hurting us," she muttered, noting how each alternative route was subtly blocked by more suspicious figures. "This isn't just a patrol. It's a coordinated operation." There, Lysandra pointed to a maintenance shaft. "I can sense minimal electronic surveillance in that direction." They squeezed into the narrow passage just as shouts and running footsteps echoed behind them. The shaft led them through the asteroid's infrastructure, emerging near the lower docking bays. "The Pathfinder's in Bay 7, Thea said, checking her portable scanner. "But they'll be watching it. Then we need a diversion." Lysandra's skin began to pulse with barely contained energy. "I can overload the bay's power grid, trigger their emergency protocols." "That'll seal off the whole section," Thea protested. "We'll be trapped too." Lysandra smiled, that otherworldly confidence shining through her human disguise. "Trust me." The next few minutes were chaos, as Lysandra interfaced with a power junction. Cascading overloads shut down entire sections of the outpost. Emergency barriers slammed down, trapping their pursuers behind layers of reinforced metal. "Now comes the interesting part," Lysandra said, grabbing Thea's hand. The contact sent tingles of energy through her arm. "Hold on tight." What followed defied physics as Thea understood it. Lysandra's form began to shift, the energy patterns beneath her skin intensifying until they enveloped them both. The world became transparent, insubstantial, and they simply walked through the emergency barriers as if they were mist. They reached the Pathfinder just as alarms began blaring throughout the station. Thea's hands flew over the startup sequence, while Lysandra collapsed into the co-pilot's seat, clearly drained. "That was impossible," Thea said as they lifted off, bypassing the bay door's security lockouts with codes Marcus had provided. "Not impossible," Lysandra corrected weakly, "just requiring more energy than I should safely expend." A reminder of how unstable we've become. His pause told her the question had hit home. "You don't understand what's at stake." "Actually, I do. Check your quantum sensors. See what your alien allies aren't telling you about the stability of their technology." She watched on her display as one of the cruisers performed the scan. Lysandra's presence, even weakened, would show clear signs of the degradation she'd described. "That's impossible," Riza muttered, clearly seeing the readings. "Now imagine that effect amplified across populated systems." Thea pressed her advantage. "That's what Project Oracle risks. Ask yourself, are you willing to bet humanity's existence on the word of people who've already proven they'll lie to protect their secrets?" The tense silence stretched for what felt like eternity. Finally, Riza spoke again. "Get out of here, Thea. I'll report that you escaped before we could intercept. But this is the only free pass you get." "Thank you, Captain." As they accelerated away from Nova Haven, plotting a course for deep space, Lysandra reached over to squeeze Thea's hand. The touch sent another wave of tingles through her arm, but this time it felt comforting. "You've given up everything to help me," she said softly. "Not everything," Thea replied, interlacing their fingers. "I've still got my ship, my principles, and now I've got you. The rest we'll figure out together." The stars beckoned ahead of them, holding both promise and danger. They had the evidence they needed, but exposing the truth wouldn't be simple. Two governments would try to stop them, and time itself might be against them as the quantum instabilities grew worse. But as Thea glanced at Lysandra, seeing the trust and determination in those impossible eyes, she knew she'd never regret her choice. Some things were worth any sacrifice. Deep in uncharted space, the Pathfinder drifted silently among the debris of an ancient battlefield. Thea stood at the viewport, watching distant stars shimmer through clouds of metallic dust. Behind her, Lysandra worked tirelessly at the science station, analyzing the data they'd stolen from Nova Haven. "The quantum degradation is accelerating," Lysandra announced, her voice tight with concern. The luminescent patterns beneath her skin had grown erratic over the past weeks, reflecting her species' increasing instability. "We have less time than I thought." Thea turned from the viewport, noting how Lysandra's hands trembled slightly as she manipulated the holographic displays. "How long?" "Months, maybe weeks before the cascade begins. Once it starts." She didn't need to finish. They both knew the consequences would be catastrophic. "Then we need to move faster," Thea said, pulling up their secure communications channel. "Marcus sent new intel about a Project Oracle facility on Europa. If we can." The ship's proximity alerts suddenly screamed to life. Multiple vessels had just emerged from hyperspace, surrounding them in a perfect containment pattern. But these weren't stellar guard ships. Ascendancy vessels, Lysandra breathed, her skin pulsing with anxiety. "They found us." The comm system crackled with an incoming transmission. The being that appeared on their screen shared Lysandra's ethereal beauty, but where she radiated warmth, his features held only cold authority. "Researcher Lysandra." He spoke in tones that seemed to echo through multiple dimensions. "Your pursuit of heretical theories has gone far enough. Return to us, and we may yet show mercy." "High Arbiter Ven," Lysandra acknowledged, her voice steady despite her fear. "Still hiding the truth from our people. How many have you sacrificed to maintain your lies?" "We do what is necessary to preserve order," Ven replied. "Surely your human pet has taught you about pragmatism." Their governments understand the necessity of secrets. The difference, Thea cut in, is that we hold our leaders accountable when those secrets threaten lives. Ven's attention shifted to her, and Thea felt the weight of centuries in his gaze. Ah, the noble Commander Novak. Your superiors warned us you might be problematic, though they didn't mention you'd be so easily swayed by a pretty face. Pretty face. Thea laughed harshly. I've seen her shift through quantum states to save lives while your people plot mass murder to preserve their pride. I know exactly who has honor here. Admirable loyalty. Ven sneered. But pointless. Your ship is surrounded. Your weapons are no match for our technology. End this foolishness now. Lysandra stepped forward, her hand finding Thea's in a gesture that had become natural over their weeks together. You're right about one thing, Arbiter. This does end now. She pressed something into Thea's palm, a small crystal that pulsed with inner light. Remember when I said I discovered more than just the truth about our origins, she whispered. I found their fail-safe too, a way to stabilize the quantum matrix. But the price. Understanding dawned in Thea's eyes. No, she said firmly. There has to be another way. There isn't. The fail-safe requires a quantum organic catalyst, a living being to guide the reformation. I'm the only one who can do it. How touching, Ven interrupted. But your time is up. Surrender, or... His image dissolved into static as Lysandra interfaced with the ship's systems, her energy patterns flaring brilliantly. I'm sending you coordinates, she told Thea. A place where the dimensional barriers are already thin. Get there, activate the crystal, and I'll do the rest. I'm not leaving you, Thea protested, but Lysandra silenced her with a kiss. The contact sent waves of energy coursing through her body, along with emotions too profound for words. You've taught me so much about courage, Lysandra said as they parted. About standing up for what's right, no matter the cost. Let me prove I learned those lessons. Before Thea could respond, Lysandra's form began to shift and blur. The energy patterns beneath her skin expanded, filling the cockpit with brilliant light. When Thea could see again, she found herself alone in the Pathfinder's emergency escape pod, the crystal clutched in her hand. Through the viewport, she watched in awe and horror as Lysandra's energy signature expanded to engulf the Ascendancy ships. Space itself seemed to ripple and twist as she initiated the quantum transformation. Sentinel. Thea called to the AI system Lysandra had transferred to the pod. Plot a course to those coordinates. Maximum speed. As they accelerated away, she saw the Ascendancy ships attempting to flee, their weapons useless against the power Lysandra was channeling. Ven's vessel tried to pursue the pod, but tendrils of quantum energy held it in place. You can't run forever, Commander. His voice crackled through failing comm systems. Even if she succeeds, even if she stabilizes our matrix, we will find you. The crystal will be used to help people, Thea cut him off. To fix what you broke. And if you come after me, you'll learn why humans have a reputation for fighting hardest when protecting something they believe in. She cut the transmission as the pod entered hyperspace, leaving behind the woman who had changed everything. The crystal pulsed warmly in her hand, almost like a heartbeat, and Thea allowed herself to hope. Lysandra had trusted her with both the future of her people and her own heart. Whatever came next, Thea would make sure that trust wasn't misplaced. There would be time for grief later. For now, she had a mission to complete and a promise to keep. The coordinates led to a remote system where reality itself seemed thin and malleable. As Thea prepared to activate the crystal, she whispered words she hadn't said while she had the chance. I love you too. The crystal flared to life, and the universe held its breath. The quantum cascade began as a whisper, a subtle ripple in space-time that spread outward from the crystal in Thea's hands, growing stronger with each passing moment. The pod's sensors registered energy readings that should have been impossible as reality itself began to reshape around them. Multiple quantum signatures detected, Sentinel reported. Pattern matches Lysandra's energy signature. Thea's heart leaped. Can you locate the source? Negative. The signals are coming from everywhere and nowhere. Dimensional barriers are becoming permeable. The crystal pulsed faster, its light synchronizing with the waves of energy washing through space. Thea remembered Lysandra's words about quantum organic catalysts and dared to hope. If anyone could survive merging with the quantum matrix itself, it would be her. A familiar voice echoed through the pod, though not from any speaker. You made it. Lysandra's words seemed to come from the crystal itself, from the energy surrounding them, from everywhere at once. I had a promise to keep, Thea replied, her voice thick with emotion. Are you alive? Dead? Both and neither. There was a hint of amusement in the omnidirectional voice. I've become part of the quantum matrix, guiding the stabilization. It's beautiful here. I can see everything, all possibilities. Outside the pod's viewport, space itself shimmered like the surface of a soap bubble. The energy patterns that had once moved beneath Lysandra's skin now danced across the cosmos. The Ascendancy ships, Thea started, are experiencing some technical difficulties. Lysandra's voice held satisfaction. It's hard to maintain quantum superiority when someone rewrites the underlying matrix of reality. But don't worry. I made sure the changes won't harm normal space, just their ability to abuse it. Warning alerts flashed across the pod's displays as a massive ship dropped out of hyperspace nearby. Thea tensed, reaching for weapons that weren't there, but something about the vessel's energy signature was familiar. Commander Novak, Captain Riza's voice came through clear on the emergency channel. I assume that enormous quantum event has something to do with you. Captain, Thea acknowledged. Here to arrest me. Actually, I'm here to help. Those files you sent from Nova Haven. They made their way to some very interested parties in the Stellar Guard internal affairs. Project Oracle has been shut down, and several high-ranking officials are facing charges. Thea let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. And the Ascendancy, currently experiencing what they're calling a cultural revolution. Seems someone broadcast proof of their leader's deceptions across their quantum communication network. Their entire society is reorganizing itself. They'll need guidance. Lysandra's voice echoed through the pod again, making Riza's next words cut off in surprise. Help to adapt to their new reality, to learn to live without superiority as their foundation. Was that? Reza trailed off. It's a long story, Thea said. One I'm happy to tell, once you explain why you're really here. Because I was wrong, he admitted, about working within the system. Sometimes you need someone willing to break all the rules to show you how far you've strayed from what's right. He paused. There's a position opening up. Special liaison to the reformed Ascendancy. Someone who understands both sides, who can help bridge the gap between our species. Interested? The crystal pulsed warmly in Thea's hands. What do you think? She asked the energy being who had changed everything. I think, Lysandra's voice held both wisdom and joy, that the universe is full of possibilities we haven't dreamed of yet, and I'd like to explore them with you. How? You're part of the quantum matrix now. The matrix exists everywhere, my love. As long as you carry that crystal, as long as you're open to the impossible, I'll be with you. Besides, her voice took on a teasing tone. Someone needs to keep you from taking unnecessary risks. Me? You're the one who merged with the fabric of reality. Riza cleared his throat. I feel like I'm missing some context here. Thea laughed, really laughed for the first time since Nova Haven. Get used to it, Captain. The universe just got a lot more interesting. She looked down at the crystal, still pulsing with familiar warmth. I accept the position, but on one condition. Everything we do is transparent. No more secrets, no more lies. Agreed, Reza said, though I have a feeling you're going to make my life very complicated. That's what humans do best, Lysandra's voice chimed in. They complicate things in the most wonderful ways. As the pod docked with Reza's ship, Thea felt a profound sense of rightness. The path ahead wouldn't be easy, helping two civilizations rebuild their relationship, establishing new protocols for quantum technology, teaching others to see beyond their prejudices. But she wouldn't be facing it alone. The crystal hummed against her chest, where she'd fashioned it into a pendant. Through it, she felt Lysandra's presence, as real and vital as ever. Different, yes, but no less precious. Ready for our next adventure? Lysandra asked, her energy dancing through the quantum field around them. Thea smiled, touching the crystal gently. With you. Always. The universe stretched out before them, full of challenges and wonders waiting to be discovered. And somewhere in the quantum spaces between moments, a human commander and an energy being who had chosen love over lies would write their own rules for what was possible. After all, that's what humans do best. They make the impossible possible, especially when they have something worth fighting for.